Let's talk about adversity for a second. I just heard an interesting thought on a podcast that I wanted to share along with you, because I think there is not a single person in the world that hasn't gone through some kind of adversity. In fact, I heard it once say that if you went up to some stranger on the road and say, "Hey, I heard about your problem recently. How's that coming along?" They'd be like, "Oh, how did you find out?" It's kind of funny, but everybody's got something. Even if the grass looks greener, and it always does, you can rest assured that everybody's got something, okay? Challenges, problems. It might be physical, it might be health, it might be mental, it might be family, it might be relationships. It could be any number of things, but we've all got something. And so we all have to learn how to deal with adversity in this life, right? And a true principle is that it's not how much adversity you go through that determines your level of success or failure. It's not the amount of adversity. Instead, it's how you respond to the adversity that you have. And a lot of times we judge each other, I think most of the time, we judge each other by the amount of adversity, which is even inaccurate because we see other people's adversities from what they allow us to see. So we may not know, in fact, I would go so far as to say we probably cannot know the full extent to which other people are going through adversity. We might see things on the surface, but we don't go home with these people and go to bed with them at night, and we don't get inside their thoughts and inside their minds, and we don't see their bank accounts and see all of their history, where they've been, what they've done, the other experiences that are contributing to this, the thought patterns, the DNA, the makeup, the relationships with family, everything that's a contributor to their adversity. We might see something on the outside and go, wow, I'm glad I don't have to go through that. But we really don't understand until we dig. I mean, it would be impossible to fully understand. Even a therapist who sits down with people gets a greater understanding of what someone's going through, can't 100% fully understand, just because they're simply not in the mind and in the life of that person. And so when we go through adversity, there are a couple of ways that we can respond. And this is what makes the difference. So it's not the amount of adversity, it's the way we respond. Let me tell you that in just a second. So we've got to, first of all, stop comparing ourselves to others, because there's no way we can know if our amount of diversity is equal or greater than or less than their amount of adversity, okay? It's just impossible. It's impossible to weigh out, because you can't know. You can't know that. But even if you could, it's a misdirected piece of judgment. It's a misdirected way of judging our success. So we like to say, oh, that person went through all this and this and he still achieved success, or that person didn't have very many problems, he achieved a lot of success, or that person had a lot of problems and didn't achieve any success, or it's still a flawed judgment, because it's not the amount of diversity that makes the difference. It's how we respond to diversity. So we are way off the mark when we judge each other on how much diversity we've had. Number one, because we don't really even know. You can't compare, because you don't know what's inside their head. And number two, the whole premise is flawed anyways, because that's not what makes the difference. What makes the difference is how you respond. So let's talk about that. How do you respond when adversity strikes? It's ugly, nobody likes it, and if it hasn't happened yet, it's going to, so expect it. So I think that's my first bit of advice, even though it's hard, and I'm giving this advice to myself probably more than anyone, because I need this. You ever talk to yourself, give yourself advice? I do too, I'll admit. In fact, side tangent, I heard the other day, it was kind of an interesting thought. Stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. At first, my response was, what in the heck does that even mean? Well, a lot of times we listen to our own thoughts, and it's a lot of negative self-talk, right? Instead of controlling the conversation by talking to ourselves and telling ourselves things. Now, if you don't want to talk to yourself out loud like I do every day when I'm driving into work, that's fine. It's the mental dialogue, though. Talk to yourself instead of listen to yourself. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Anyways, back on topic. So adversity happens, and what do you do? How do you respond? Well, you've got two decisions. This is really what I want to get into. Number one, you can throw your arms up and say, man, that sucks. That was terrible. I hate it. I'm a loser. This happened, that happened, everything. Why does this always happen to me? How come nobody else has to go through this? Why do I got to, blah, 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 blah. Woe is me, right? You can do that. And you have what's called a little pity party. Pity parties are not, they don't pay off. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. A pity party is not worth it. Financially, mentally, physically, emotionally, otherwise, they don't do anything. So if you're going to invite someone over to your pity party, if it's me, I'm gonna politely decline the offer and say, you know what, I've got enough drama in my life. I don't need to join you for your pity party. My kids love it when I'm like that, but they'll tell you, if you're gonna have a pity party, please don't invite me. Go in, close the door, have it yourself, get it out of your system, then come back and join the rest of the world and get on with your life. So pity parties are just a waste of time. Don't do it. Okay, that's number one. But secondly, the other way that you can react, and this is the one obviously that I would recommend, is curiosity. And I'm going to talk more about this in future episodes because I love this characteristic, this attribute, curiosity. When my kids come to me with a problem, my reaction needs to be one of curiosity, not one of, here, I'm going to fix your problem for you. I think a lot of parents do that too often. I think managers do that too often. We want to fix other people's problems. But when we do that, we do a disservice to that person because all we do is reinforce the fact that they are not going to be fixing their own problems, and they can come back to you next time and you'll fix their problem again. This happens especially in parenting. But when you have an adversity, something happen, train yourself to be curious. Curious in what regard? Okay, well, great question. I'm so glad you asked. Curious in that, what's going to happen next? How am I going to be solving this? Why did this happen? And what am I supposed to learn from this? How will I grow from it? You see, those are good questions because once you start asking your brain those questions, your brain is going to start looking for the answers. And once your brain starts looking for the answers, your brain isn't caught up on how awful life is. Your brain is curious, which is a beautiful thing. It's a positive thing because it's anxious to see what's next. Where do we go from here? What happened here? How did this happen? And what am I supposed to learn from it? And anyways, those types of questions. So be curious. Okay, don't ask yourself or tell yourself how horrible life is and how awful things are and why did this happen to me. Instead, take a position of, In fact, that's the first thing that you should do. You can go a little higher pitched if you want. Or you can just kind of, or Any one of those will work. Pick your own. But stop and go, interesting. Okay. And then take a deep breath and be curious and then move forward. And you'll either figure it out or it will teach you a lesson and you will benefit from it because you will have learned something. The most successful people grow not because they had it so easily and they got everything handed to them, not because they were everything just fell in line for them and nothing, they didn't have to work for anything. Successful people achieve success because of how they respond to adversity. They use their time wisely. I've talked about time management. And when something happens to them, they pick themselves up, they're resilient, and they dust off a little bit of dirt, got on the shoulder, whatever, and they move forward. They take one more step forward another day. And you can do the same. That's a choice that you can make. That is not something that's born with you, something you can develop it to be something, I think, that becomes more second nature to you. But anyone at any time can choose to stand back up, pick themselves back up one more time, even if you've fallen 1,252 times. Look at Thomas Edison, how many times he failed inventing the light bulb. You can still pick yourself up one more time. The good news is you only have to pick yourself up one more time, then you fall. You just can't end on the fall. If you fall and stay there, that's failure. The only way to fail is to not stand back up. So adversity, expect it. It's going to happen. Take a mindset of curiosity, and I think it would totally change your life.